finally arrived in the Philippines. The country has also started rolling out the British-Swedish shot over the weekend. The OCTA research team warns that daily COVID-19 cases in Metro Manila may reach 6,000 by the end of the month. 13 million doses of Moderna vaccines are set to arrive in the Philippines by mid-year, while another batch of SinoVac shots will be arriving in the country in less than 2 weeks. And starting tonight, 4 new shows from the Kapamilya Network's primetime block will be airing on TV5. Fast, focused, and fearless. Here's everything you need to know as you jumpstart your day. I'm Charles Lejano. Starting off today's newscast with more AstraZeneca doses arriving in the Philippines, as a total of 38,400 shots arrived in the country last night at the NAIA Terminal 3. Vaccine czar Carlito Galvez Jr. says this completes the initial tranche of COVID vaccines from the COVAX facility. And Galvez explained that the delay may have been caused by shipping issues.
Nakita natin kasi yung last delivery, most likely baka sa cargo sa cargo allotment. Most likely kasi yung ito nga commercial flight ito. So yung sa cargo baka hindi nagkasya, and then ito dumating na ang inaasahan natin.
Prior to the arrival of the additional doses, AstraZeneca shots were being administered to medical frontliners at the Hospital ng Parañaque on Saturday. During the event, Galvez said that they are carefully rolling out the British-Swedish vaccine to better manage its possible side effects. But he also downplayed those questioning the efficacy of the vaccine against the South African variant.
Wala pa po tayong conclusive na diyan na pag-aaral. So yung mga tinatawag nating mga views na yon ay hindi pa naman yon tinatawag nating scholarly at saka peer-reviewed na statement. So kaya sa atin yung sinusunod pa rin natin is yung prescription na binigay sa atin ng emergency use authorization ng FDA.
The OCTA research team is reporting an accelerated surge of COVID-19 infections in Metro Manila. This as the nationwide caseload reached the 3,000 mark for the 3rd consecutive day. According to OCTA, NCR logged almost 1,500 new cases on Saturday, a surge from its previous 7-day average of about 1,025 cases. That's also an increase of 42% from the previous week and a whopping 130% surge compared to 2 weeks ago. The last time Metro Manila saw similar rates was back in July 2021. And OCTA research fellow Guido David says this number might balloon further at the national level if recent trends continue.
Right now we're seeing about 3,000 cases on average. And it appears that if the trend continues, we'll be at around 4,000 cases, I believe, by next week. And if the trend continues still, then we will be approaching 5,000 to 6,000 cases per day in the whole country by the end of this month, based on the, again, the projected reproduction number. So we're not saying that this is what will happen. What we're saying is if the trends continue and we do not reverse it, this is what will happen.
NTF Special Advisor Ted Herbosa attributes this recent spike in cases to supposed carelessness of the public in complying with health protocols. He also said that the new variants might be making the situation worse, but noted that people should make more effort to avoid contracting the virus.
We can see more people interacting, and that's a possibility for increased transmission. The second is people becoming careless, using less face cover, the face shield and the face mask when they interact with people.
The World Health Organization says the emergence of new variants underscores the importance of COVID-19 vaccination. But does this mean that the public should go ahead and get inoculated regardless of the vaccine brand? The WHO answers that question and more in this Bloomberg report.
As new variants emerge, and as we learn more about how much protection the current batch of vaccines provide against them, people are wondering if they should wait till a more efficacious vaccine is available, or should they go ahead and get vaccinated now?
The good thing is there are lots of vaccines in development, but currently there are only a few that have completed clinical trials and that have had regulatory approval for use in countries. The good thing about all of these vaccines which have been approved is that they offer a lot of protection against severe disease, hospitalization, and death. And that's what we want. We want to reduce deaths. We want to prevent people from getting sick and going into hospital. We're still learning how effectively these vaccines protect against mild disease or asymptomatic infection. With the variants that are being described from different countries, people are asking these questions because there's some data coming showing that vaccines may be less effective in preventing against some of these variants. However, even in those countries, all of the vaccines that are approved still are very likely to protect against severe disease and hospitalization and death. So what's really important now is for people in countries who have been prioritized, who are in those risk groups, the health workers, the frontline workers, the elderly, and others who have been prioritized, must get their vaccines, because what we want is to prevent people from getting really ill or dying from COVID-19.
In some cities, serological studies have revealed that about half of the population has antibodies. Does this mean that these places, these cities, are approaching herd immunity? And should people relax the precautions in these places?
So WHO has been keeping track of these seroepidemiological studies, and at last count, there were almost 500. And if you take them all together, less than 10% of the world's population actually has antibodies to this virus. Of course, in some settings, like particularly in the very high-density urban settlements, there are pockets where 50-60% of the population has been exposed to the virus and has antibodies. But that doesn't mean that the whole city or the whole province or the state or the country is now achieving herd immunity. The same individuals who are living in that community, the moment they go outside to a place where there is less of herd immunity, and if they don't have antibodies, they will then become susceptible. The only way of achieving herd immunity at that scale is through vaccination, and that's what we're focusing on now through COVAX, to get vaccines out to all countries, to vaccinate populations as soon as possible. Till that happens, we need to continue to take all the precautions that we've been advised to and that we've been doing for all these months, and this is along with the government taking all the actions that they have been taking in order to keep transmission down as low as possible.
Here are the biggest stories from the dailies. Filipino Star ngayon reports that Moderna has agreed to supply the Philippine government with 13 million doses of its COVID-19 vaccine. The company says it will work with regulators to pursue the necessary approvals prior to distribution. And if the planned deliveries will materialize by mid-year, Moderna will be the third vaccine brand to be used in the Philippines. Citing Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr., Pangmasa reports that more SinoVac doses are coming to the country on March 21. This includes the remaining 400,000 doses to be donated by China and another 1 million SinoVac shots purchased by the Philippine government, while another 4.5 million doses of AstraZeneca are also expected to be shipped to the Philippines by May. 9 activists were killed by police officers while 6 others were arrested in a series of raids in Calabarzon on Sunday morning. Calabarzon Police Director Felipe Natividad claimed that explosives and firearms were seized during the raids. The crackdown came 2 days after President Duterte ordered police and soldiers to kill communist insurgents in all encounters. In other news, OFW deployment may soon resume in the UAE. This after the Labor Department struck a deal with the Middle Eastern country to resume labor relations as early as March 31. Faith Del Mundo with the story.
After 7 years, the Philippines can now again deploy workers to the United Arab Emirates. Labor Secretary Silvestro Bello III said they had a joint committee meeting and signed a bilateral agreement allowing OFW deployment to UAE beginning March 31.
Magandang balita, pwede nang mag-deploy muli ng ating mga OFWs or especially yung ating mga household service workers. After 7 years, wala tayong bilateral agreement with them. Kaya hindi tayo makapag-deploy ng ating mga OFW doon. Sa dahilanan na ayaw nila na yung standard contract ay mapirmahan ng 4 na tao. Ang gusto kasi ng UAE government, 2 lang ang pipirma doon sa standard contract.
Deployment of workers ceased in 2014 when the UAE government refused a 4-party contract that would have provided security to Filipino workers. In this 4-party contract, the signatories are the employer, the employee, the foreign recruitment agency, and the local recruitment agency. The contract also provides that the OFW may keep their passport and mobile phone. They will also have regular sleeping hours and can finally cook or choose their own food. OFWs will also be entitled to 1 paid day off per week, and original employers must consent before they are transferred to a different employer. The agreement also provides that the UAE government will no longer allow the conversion of tourist visas into working visas without the approval of the Philippine Labor Attaché in the place of deployment. Meanwhile, Bello also says the no vaccine, no work policy is illegal, after labor groups raised concerns that some private firms are considering to impose such policy.
Illegal yan. Hindi pwede na pilitin mo ang isang tao na magpabakuna kung ayaw niya. And lalong hindi pwede na gawin mong kondisyon para makapasok siya na kailangan mabakunahan mo na siya. No, that is a very illegal policy, John. Hindi pwede yan. Kung ayaw ng tao magpabakuna, hindi mo siya mapilit. Pero having said that, Aldo, ako'y nakikiusap sa ating mga kababayan, kapag nandyan na ang bakuna, magpabakuna na tayo. Yan ang the best way for us to ensure our return to normalcy. Yan po. Maliwanag, Aldo, yung no vaccine, no work is an illegal policy, and I am assuring everybody that so far our office has not received any formal complaint. Pwede silang dumiretso sa mga DOLE offices namin. Meron kaming city, municipal, provincial, and regional offices, at pwede rin sila magreklamo.
According to Bello, an employee cannot be forced to be inoculated. However, the Labor Secretary encouraged workers to take the COVID-19 shots if the opportunity arises. He adds that the companies that will force an employee to get vaccinated or will not allow employees to report for work if they have not yet received COVID-19 shots will be sanctioned. He adds that companies that will force an employee to get vaccinated or will not allow employees to report for work if they have not yet received COVID-19 shots will be sanctioned. He also reminds Filipino workers that they may report errant employers to DOLE Hotline 1349. For News 5, Faith Del Mundo, we are One News.
Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship Joey Concepcion is confident that the country's economy can recover by the last quarter of this year. Amid the ongoing vaccine rollout, Concepcion assured the public that reopening the economy is still a priority for the administration. That's because it is necessary for the survival of all businesses, particularly MSMEs.
I believe the economy will bounce back in the fourth quarter, and as mentioned, the various reasons why it will, with all the... ultimately, we really have to open the economy, or else we will not be able to save the livelihoods of many of our micro and small entrepreneurs.
Primetime drama fans, listen up. More Kapamilya shows are heading to TV5. Starting tonight, ABS-CBN primetime offerings, led by the long-running FPJ's Ang Provinciano, will be simulcast on the Kapatid Network. Ang Provinciano will air at 8 p.m. as usual, to be followed by Ang Sayo Ay Sa Akin, Walang Hanggang Paalam, and Pinoy Big Brother Connect. All this is made possible through an expanded partnership between Signal and the Kapamilya Network. And that's how the day is shaping up to be. Join us later at 10 a.m. as we monitor the day's biggest stories from sunrise to sundown. You can also catch One News on Signal Play. Just register for a free account at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Charles Lejano. We are One News.